Hello, and thanks for attending the Hidden Valley Lake Board of Directors meeting for September 23rd, 2021. I want to just remind everybody that masks are required. So I'll call the meeting to order at 6:31. And if you could join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Robin, you want to call the roll?
Sure. Kim Darnell,
Here.
Diane Wiley Bowers, Edith Lentz,
Here.
Bryn Boyd,
Here.
Bruce Bashirs,
Here.
Ted Long,
Present.
and Michael Yates.
Here.
All present. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move to member comments. Your board of directors encourages comments on the policies, programs, and services of our association. However, personal criticisms and personal attacks are not allowed. Please observe proper decorum. A director or manager may briefly respond to a member's statement or questions. And you can email questions throughout the meeting to board@hbla.com. Do you have any emails, Randy?
I do have one. Elizabeth Montgomery writes, "Dear board, I did not hear my letter for the September 9th meeting read aloud as I requested. I am resending it. Could you please see to it that it is read aloud at tonight's meeting along with this one? I understand that many of the key dollar amounts related to the Hartman complex are still in flux, even after the construction contract was signed. What is the contingency amount currently projected? What special assessments are currently projected? Is the 20% dues increase for next year still expected? Sincerely, Elizabeth Montgomery." And I would like to address her first part of this about it not being read. Unfortunately, we had roughly 40 emails last week to read. I missed this one. She sent it at 10 minutes to 6. So that was kind of in that crossover between the two meetings. So I sincerely apologize. It definitely was not intended. The letter she wrote 2 weeks ago, "Dear board members, I hope that you will not rush into a decision tonight on the Hartman Complex contract. Just today, new information came out to us about the financial implications of the project. In a budget workshop today, discussions were had about special assessments being levied on top of a possible 20% increase in regular assessments next year. Plans were discussed to push other projects further into the future. You and the membership both deserve time to digest that information before making a decision. I am unclear what the costs beyond the 8.22 million for the construction are, and I wonder if you are too. Is the total projected cost 10.5 million, 10.2 million, another amount? What are the additional 2 million or so to be spent on? Much has been made of your fiduciary duty when it comes to replacing this one amenity. However, there is no requirement that you build this big and this expensive. Your fiduciary duty includes protecting the overall financial well-being of our association. It includes seeing to the safety of the community with regard to wildfire and flooding. Please think it through for yourself with a calculator in hand before you vote." And then she said, "Please read it before tonight's meeting. Sincerely, Elizabeth Montgomery." Real quickly, for those who are not aware, the board's workshop earlier, the direction was given to reduce the project amount to 9.5 million. So we are working with Browning and we'll have a new number for the board. Preliminarily, it looks like it will not require the special assessments, but the regular assessment will remain at 20%, but that's still to be finalized. As far as our other questions, contingency amount is the difference between the 8.22 and now the 9.5. Special assessments are not currently projected based on our preliminary look at the numbers. And yes, 20% dues increase is still expected for next year. So that's the only comment I have. I looked on my phone a moment ago, and due to lagging internet connection, I can't see anything, but I'll continue to check.
And the audience? Christina and Barbara? Who wants to go first? Are you both going to come? All right.
Request no.
5 Public meeting. 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 5 Public mee
Good evening. I'd like to thank Directors Boyd, Yates, and Brashears for voting no against the 10.2 million budget on the Hartman project. Myself and a lot of other people have been out in the community talking to fellow homeowners who are outraged at the lack of conscience the rest of the board has showed regarding this. With a 20% increase in assessments and pending special assessments, families and seniors alike can ill afford this. And for that reason, we are presenting a petition for a recall. For 238 votes, signatures.
Okay.
My name is Barbara Hartman Jensen.
I'll take it.
Yeah, Eric.
I'll give it to you. She'll give it to you right now. Can you come back up and do your names and your UBLs, please?
Sorry, it's Christina, and it's UBL 4620 and 4619. Yeah.
Barbara Hartman Jensen, UBL 0802020.
Thank you. Any other comments in the audience?
My name is Beth Solzinski, and first I would like to thank the board for all the work they're putting in.
You can take this off while you speak.
Oh, that's great. I can see my lips. As far as I'm aware, there's only a 5% or 8% increase allowed yearly. So 20% is way over. So I'm obviously against that. I'm also interested to know what is being done momentarily about the homeowners that are not paying any dues and haven't done so for a long time. I know that, what are the incentives and why would I pay my dues? You know, they're going up and up. So those two questions. Oh yeah, and I also, I've been living here for 18 years. And at the moment, I don't know my UBL by heart. Can I sit down or do I have to?
Yeah, you can sit down. Randy will touch base on that.
So I didn't hear everything you said, but the gist of what I got was you're concerned that the 20% is greater than what that you believe is legally allowed. Okay. 20% is legally allowed. It's in the CCNRs. It's also in Civil Code, Davis Sterling Act. We are allowed up to 20%. I don't know that the association has ever done 20%, but they certainly can. That's allowed and that's a per year amount, not a cumulative amount over several years. But the law says the association could do that. So, and I'm sorry, the other part of your question is about special. Right, and correct. So what's being done is we do most every meeting before the public session, we have the executive session, and there's often conversation about the people that are delinquent. Sometimes they come back in and request payment arrangements so that they can get caught up. More often than not, you're exactly right. They don't pay. They've never paid. In some cases, I believe, since they purchased the property 20 or 30 years ago. And historically, the board has been reluctant to do foreclosures, but we are starting to go down that path. But if you foreclose, you can take the property, and if it's already developed, you can take the home. So we are investigating those options.
Any other comments? All righty, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. Anything on, no? We'll move on to the president's report. As Randy said, we are working on the budget. I'd also like to say that Terry Ballard, who normally is sitting in the seats this evening, has passed away. And there will be a celebration of life on Sunday from 12 to 3 at the Greenview, if you'd like to come. With that, I'll go to the treasurer's report.
Well, as you have said, and Brandy has also said, the Finance Committee will wait for the Browning report with Kim Smith, and they will put something together to see how the numbers move around. So hopefully we won't have that first special assessment, because the board had voted to reduce some of the money toward the Hartman project. But the Finance Committee will wait for those findings to determine what to recommend to the board. Whether we will recommend to adopt this a new version of version 6 budget or reject it. And that's it.
All righty, thank you. We'll go on to the secretary's report.
The summary for the executive session, September 9, 2021. All directors were present. GM Murphy, Accounting Director Smith, and EC Manager Tom Strickland joined us via telephone. The board discussed 4 member issues. We discussed 2 contracts, 3 personnel issues, 6 legal issues, and we adjourned at 5:04 p.m. That's it.
Thank you, Edith. We'll go on to staff report. Randy?
Okay, couple things. First, I want to brag on a couple of our directors who have signed up and completed the CAI Board Leader Certificate. Both Edith and Ted have completed it. I've seen the certificate with my own eyes. Here's a copy of Edith's. So congratulations to you both. Most of the rest of the directors have signed up and are in the process of completing it. I am going to brag on myself for a minute. I know there's been some concern among members of the community that I am not knowledgeable enough to be a community association manager. I took and passed the exam on Saturday, so I have my certificate. I am now a certified manager of community associations. I will be working on other credentials as time allows. As to the other normal updates, I think everybody knows, or hopefully everybody knows, the restaurant is now open 7 days a week. We finally got enough staff to allow that. Monday, talking with Chef Matt, it's kind of funny. He kind of expected it to be dead, and it actually was pretty packed. So, and he was behind the grill, so he was earning his keep that day for sure. So events, we hope to start getting events. We're looking at doing something for Halloween, Thanksgiving, and some kind of tree lighting event like we've done the last couple of years. Don't know for sure what shape that will take or when it will be, but we're investigating those options. Matt said his next priority is to start getting a weekend brunch, which for certain people in the group will include Eggs Benedict. So that's the plan anyway. Budget, it's already been touched on. We're working on it, and we'll have more information in the coming weeks. The pool will close Sunday. I know there's been some people that have requested it stay longer. Unfortunately, it's not pool staff that's a problem, it's the maintenance staff. They come in at 4 in the morning and are leaving at noon or 12:30, whatever, their 8-hour shift is up. And it's creating a burden on other areas of the association. So we have to look at the greater good, and we are trying to develop a plan to address that for next season. I have a plan to meet with some swimmers, some staff, and come up with an action plan for next season. So that's the upcoming attractions. Next Meet the GM meeting is scheduled for the second Friday of October, which is October 8th. However, I must confess I have tickets to National League Division Series Game 1, and assuming the Giants make it, and are not the wild card team, I will be attending the game. So it depends on what time the game is, because that's all still to be determined. So that meeting date or time may adjust based on that information. The sediment removal, we're still waiting for the county on a grading permit. I send an email on a regular basis. Groundbreaking for the Hartman will occur next week. And just kind of an update on that. The process has been long and arduous getting it through the permitting from the county. There's been a number of delays, mostly due to staffing. Most recently, we were ready to pull the permit last Friday, and we got a literal 11th hour notification that we need to raise the foundation an entire foot. It went all the way up through the process, and it was just now literally just told to us that that needed to be done. That's already creating a change order for the project. I have no idea what the scope of that or that cost is, but I would not be surprised that it's more than the $25,000 that I allowed for in the estimate that I provided the board the other day. So I'll keep you updated about that. Playground shade structures still are scheduled to be installed at the end of October. The supplier has difficulty getting his materials, and he will not commit to anything before the end of October. Mailbox replacements on Hartman Road are underway. I think some people have seen that. There's one new box and more to come. Maintenance update is they're working with a list of maintenance projects at the Greenview that never seems to end. The speed bump at Southgate was removed and replaced a little bit further away from the Tiger Teeth. There was some concern that because of the closeness, some shorter wheelbase, or sorry, longer wheelbase vehicles were going over both at the same time. So to eliminate that problem, we removed the one speed bump and put another one about 10 feet or so further back. Maintenance starting time, because of the pool closure beginning September 30th, will be 6 a.m. So they'll be on site from 6 to 8 or 2:30. And otherwise, it's just routine maintenance for them. There's a big member guest golf tournament this weekend that they've been helping with. So that's all I have for now.
Any questions for Andy? Mike?
Do you have any update on the ramp? Do you have any update on the ramp?
He said, do you have any update on the ramp?
So I've reached out to the contractor. They are starting to work. I don't know. They have not been on site yet. So it took us a couple weeks to get the contract, signed and executed. So they've been at it about 2 weeks now. I don't have anything more than that at this time.
Bruce?
The boat ramp at the marina.
Oh.
The launch ramp.
We're gonna extend it. I was gonna ask about that too, because it seems to me the bar was for Coastland Marine or someone like that to come back with a proposal to the board of
Right.
what a ramp would cost. And I
Right.
don't remember ever seeing a.
It hasn't gotten to that point yet. You're right. This
Okay, so
right
it's
now
still-
is
They will come back with a contract and a proposal.
developing a plan, an estimate for what it will cost to do the extension. Yes.
Okay. So nothing's really been done yet. And what about, this needs to be done before the rainy season, before we have.
There's no requirement, but obviously the sooner we get it done, the better it will be. I mean, the water's low. We wait till after the rainy season, they'll have to make accommodations for that. So the goal is to get it done before it rains.
Any other questions? No? We'll move on to the consent agenda. We have approved the minutes from the Board of Directors regular meeting on September 9th. We have approved the minutes from the Board of Directors joint budget workshop on September 9th. And we have accept the August financials. I'm assuming you all read those. Are there any, Bruce?
I'd like to pull the August financials from the
The-
consent agenda.
August financials? And the reason? Is there a reason?
That's the only one I wanted to pull, yeah.
And why?
Because I wanted to discuss them, we didn't go over the financials, I wanted to go over the, summary. I wanted to go over the summary versus the budget portion of the financials real quick.
Okay,
I think we have monthly financials, we should at least look at one page of them rather than just, pass them by.
all right.
I thought maybe the treasurer or Kim might have gone over them, but since they didn't, I think we should.
Kim? Who do you want? Kim or?
Just, I think
the
we'll
treasurer?
put it on the screen. I wanted to make a couple comments and then others
Okay.
could make comments, I guess.
There it comes. There it is.
Okay, yeah, so people are always interested in the green view. And the green view looks like it was 19,000 under for the
184.
month. And so far this year is 133,000 to the minus, 73,000 over budget, it looks like. Did I read that right? Yeah. So that's not so good. The other one I wanted to point out is our golf course. It continues to do outstanding this year. And the combined, the maintenance and the golf operations together are better than budget by $138,000. And that's anticipating an $835,000 subsidy this year. So I think they're having a great year. To me, it was a little disappointing that they didn't come in with a little tighter budget for next year. But the final thing I wanted to comment on is further down, scroll down, is the surplus. It looks like in terms of our current surplus, we're 479,000 better than budget for the year, plus the surplus created through the PPP loans that we're currently running a surplus of nearly $1.4 million. So, and I know, I guess for the budget, one of the proposals is to take 500,000 from that surplus and put it in the reserve. So those are just the three things I wanted to point out. I don't know if anyone else wanted to point anything out.
Randy?
I just want to comment, I agree with Bruce that the food and beverage operation is a concern. Obviously, as we've discussed before, the budget that was adopted was a non-COVID budget. So the numbers almost out of the gate were not going to be met. Additionally, because of COVID, we've had a couple of closures. We also had a 10-day shutdown by the ABC because of an incident that occurred more than 2 years ago. So there's easily $50,000 to $100,000 in revenue that's been lost because of those periods of closure.
Any other comments? Mike?
Yes, I know we had discussed, hold on.
Mike's on, but you gotta go.
I know we had discussed the fact that we should have a policy on what to do with the excess funds, and that does not exist.
Not yet. We will be bringing it with the budget on October 14th. It was approved by the Finance Committee a couple of weeks ago. But due to several other issues, it's not been brought forward, but we do intend to bring it with the entire budget package on October 14th.
Any other comments? Questions? Are we good with the minutes? Are we approving the amendment, the minutes?
I guess they would be automatic. I would make a motion that we accept the August financials as presented.
All righty. Do I have a second? Robin?
One second point of order. There was no vote had on the minutes. So since the August financial concern has been addressed, I believe if we could just approve the motion and approve the entire consent agenda.
Agenda? Yeah, that's kind of what I meant. But.
Yeah, so you want to modify your motion, Bruce?
Do you want to modify?
No, I think since it was pulled, then it has to be voted on actually.
But we didn't have the separate vote, so for the other part.
Well, the consent, if it's a consent item, you don't need to vote if there's no objection to it. So the first two would pass.
All right.
And we just need to take the vote that we started to take.
So we have a first, we have a motion, and we have a second. All those in favor of accepting the August financials? Sorry, Rob.
That's okay.
Catch you on the next one. We have committee and liaison reports. We have an EC committee minutes for August 20th. We have safety and security monthly report for August. We have the BOAC minutes for August 25th. Do I have any liaison reports? No liaison reports. So I'm assuming everybody has read the minutes and we're okay with those. Committee appointments. We have appoint Louise Pagone to the Safety and Security Committee, position number 6 by secret ballot.
Come back to me. Where the heck is it? Oh, what else on it? Whatever.
Just tear off the bottom and put your vote.
Here. And that's
That's what I just said.
a yes or a no.
That was a note to me.
Me too.
And I don't need a napkin, thank you.
Well, there's a vote on that.
No, I know, that's all.
Okay.
And she was approved.
Alrighty, congratulations, Louise. Moving on to old business, I see there is none. I'll move on to new business. We have a presentation by Mr. Tom Strickland, the EC manager. Tom, step on forward.
You're the next contestant.
Not out. Forward here.
Oh, that's in your face. Evening, everyone.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, Tom.
So I had a really great experience yesterday. I got to meet Will Evans and a couple of Civic Sparks from CLERC, which is Clear Lake Environmental Research Center. They're a nonprofit. Great people. They're doing all kinds of great stuff for the county. Took them on a tour and showed them our forest issues regarding our trees, our weed abatement program, pretty much most of our fire mitigation efforts. Completely impressed with what we're doing. CLERC has been awarded several grants from CAL FIRE in the last 2 years, totaling $7.7 million, doing everything in our power to try and get our hands on some of that cash for us. Pretty promising. We'll meet back in December and discuss potential fire mitigation projects that they're going to fund. So they didn't come out and say no right off the bat. As most of us know, on past grants that we've applied for, we generally get told no. But this time it's very promising. So rest assured, I'll work as hard as I can to get that money to us. New construction projects, we were approved for 13 totaling this year. Only 3 have broken ground. We poured foundations. Kind of slowed. Our chipping, whopping 1,185 piles have been chipped out of people's property. I mean, that is a lot of material that's no longer in here. That's great news for us. This year we completed our 3rd year of contract service with A+. We removed 156 trees. We mitigated fire mitigation clearance of 172 trees. That includes canopies being trimmed up, ladder fuels, other diseases, other issues with the trees. We got one little pest that's given us a problem called dwarf mistletoe. You see it primarily up on the Unit 9 area. It looks like a little growth on the branches. And there's 2 kinds. There's non-photosynthesizing and then there's photosynthesizing ones. We were not lucky enough to get the better one. We got the photosynthesizing, which means it can basically hop from dead tree to dead tree to dead tree and still live and propagate the rest of the forest with this evil little system. So we'll be working with the Forestry Service. I believe she graduated from UC Sacramento, one of the, I can't remember which one, but she had a wealth of knowledge yesterday, and we're driving down the road. She literally bells out at the side of the truck and says, "I want to look at that tree." Runs up the hill and starts taking pictures. So they'll get back to me on ways we can mitigate that as well. Weed abatement. My first weed abatement this year. It was interesting to say the least. Sheep did 118 acres total. Manual mechanical was 277 roughly. That consisted of inventory lots, non-compliant lots, common area parks, common area golf course. And part of that money was also set aside for contingency and cleanup where the sheep may or may not have done the best job that they could because they were pulled out too soon or they just weren't hungry enough. We had 249 non-compliant lots this year. Those numbers fluctuate every year, up and down, plus 5 or 10. We had 93 contracted lots. That number was down. So the remainder of the lots were all privately abated. We've seen a pretty good turnaround this year for lots changing hands and people taking responsibility and cleaning them up, which is nice, very nice for us. Compliance is up. Our fines are down a little bit because it seems that people pick up that phone, you call and say, "Hey, you want to take care of this," or else you get a fine. They're responding well to it. We're giving them more time to correct it, and it seems to be working. So we'll continue that until we have to use the stick versus the carrot. Probably the biggest news here is we did the Firewise recertification application for us. And the bare minimum investment for the Firewise is $88,971 for the community. Well, with all of our projects, top that just a little bit. We totaled out at $894,776. So 100%. Yeah, we're doing what we can. 10 times what we're doing, 100% effort. We're doing great. That actually breaks down the required investment per dwelling from Firewise states $27.20. We were $273.55 per dwelling. So that's a lot of extra that's going in there. Firewise meetings should resume here coming up in second week of October. We'll keep everyone posted on that. Doing an organization meeting here, I believe the first week in October, and we'll have more news thereafter.
Awesome. Any questions for Tom?
How you doing on staffing? Did you finally find that last position?
No, sir. No, sir. Every weekend I go home with at least a stack of cards, and anytime I go out shopping, anytime I have contact with anyone, I am trying to poach employees from wherever I can. It's difficult.
Edith?
Not a question, just a comment. As a former member of the EC committee and currently liaison, I really appreciate your being at those meetings because we meet twice a month and it's comforting and very reassuring to the members on that committee that you're there. We thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure.
I guess you are excused.
Thank you much.
Thanks, Tom.
We'll move on to the bar. County of Lake notice of intent to adopt a mitigation negative declaration amendment. Randy?
So we received this notice a few weeks ago, and this is an environmental process. They have to contact all property owners within a certain radius of a project. We apparently are within that radius for something that's going on Harrington Road in Middletown. So the information is provided in the board packet. It's about a marijuana cultivation project. And this is to modify, or try this again. Adopt mitigated negative declaration addendum to the application. So the information is there. They need a response by October 6th. since we will not have another meeting between now and then. I'm looking for some staff direction on how you wish to handle it. In the past, we've had these and we've chosen to not do anything. So that is potentially the first option. We could respond with a letter of general opposition, or conversely, a letter of general support. If somebody wants to get into specific reasons for opposition or support, I will need some help from whoever makes the motion to do that, so that we can be as specific as possible. General opposition will be simply, we don't want the project, general support was we are okay with the project, or do nothing means we don't respond, and that's typically what most people do. And with that, I'm looking for some direction from the board.
Mike?
Is it a legal project? Is it sanctioned by the county, the state, and federal?
That's part of this process, the environmental process. They don't make a determination on whether or not it's approved and legal. Currently, I don't know. I mean, I would imagine that they're legal in the sense of, because they're coming out and applying for it to the county. If they were operating some sort of illegal grow, they wouldn't even bother.
Any other comments or questions for Randy? Brent?
I have a comment. I'm concerned about the water use and any potential crime that it could attract. I say live and let live, but in this case, it's going to be not in my backyard. So, can't hear me?
No, it's hard. You're muffled.
That's
For
pretty
those of us,
amazing, yeah.
so
Okay.
for those of us that are hearing impaired,
Yeah, I'll restate that. I'm usually for living and let live, but in this case, not in my backyard. I'm concerned about water use and potential crime. So I would recommend general opposition.
Diane?
I think our stance before was basically sort of do nothing.
right?
Okay, so, in a sense that, our community or Lake County seems to, in terms of us trying to get permits, it's like every grow on earth was ahead of us to get a permit.
Right.
Trying to do it. So I'm not sure where we can go from here because it is legal. The city approves it. They want revenue. I would suggest, but it's kind of hopeless.
So ultimately, we'll need a motion to do one.
Did you make a motion, Brent?
I'll make a motion to go with number 2, respond to the letter of opposition.
Do I have a second? No second, motion dies. Do I have another motion?
I make a motion at this point to do nothing. Support or oppose.
Do I have a second? I have a second on the floor. We have more discussion? I saw your hand up. Did you have a comment? No? Bruce?
I see no reason to change from our previous stance, and I think the concerns that Brent has, we talked about before, water and other things, those are addressed through the process. So let them do the process.
And you can write letters individually.
Individually, you can write a letter. Yeah, if you need the information, it's in the bar. If people in the audience want to write, certainly I can give you a copy, or you can find it on our website as well.
There may be something on Facebook. I know there was a group opposing the other grow. Not sure about this one. I don't really go on Facebook much, but those have crossed my desk. So I just want to check if that's what you want to do.
Robin, you want to call the roll?
Yeah, sure. Diane Wiley Bowers. Michael Yates,
Yes.
Edith Lynn,
Yes.
Ted Long,
Yes.
Bruce Bashirs,
Yes.
Brent Boyd,
No.
Kim Darnell.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Thanks.
Oh, so yes.
All right, we'll move on to letter C, which is a bar to approve the Inspector of Elections virtual attendance and vote count at annual meetings.
Okay, so I was recently approached by Curtis, the principal. I don't know that he's the owner exclusive, but the principal at Inspector of Elections. And he inquired as to whether or not we were going to do an on-site vote count or do it remotely like we did last year. I told him I would check with the board. The potential to save $2,500 if they did it remotely. I know there was concern about the actual recall vote process. They made some adjustments in how they do it and made it more visible the second time around. I did not hear any complaints about the results or the process at the last general election for us. Given that we can save the $2,500, and also with the way this COVID thing's working and going and spiking and whatever, we don't know for sure what ultimately will be in place in November. I would recommend that we approve this request to do the vote. Oh, we'll still have a meeting and the members can attend and we'll do it on the screen and everything like we did for those of us. That was totally closed to the public, but assuming we're not shut down for public participation, we would allow that to occur here and we'd watch it live on screen, but they physically would be still in La Jolla. I think they're in.
Any questions for Randy? Brent? Matt?
As fascinating as it was to see that, because I've never been part of any process like that in my life, that goes the same for the goings on here for the last year. I was asked in that town hall or meet the candidate if I was for transparency. I said I was, and I still say that now, although I didn't have any objections to done, obviously, because I got the most votes. Why would I argue with that? I think it would be great for pure transparency. $2,500 is not that much considering we're talking about millions of dollars for various things. To have them in this room, opening the envelopes in front of everyone to see.
Randy?
They're not in this room. They're in a different room. You have more visibility online than you would if they were physically here.
Diane?
Yeah, I have been here when they have counted it here, and they've used the conference room, and people can't really go in there, you know, you just, at the door, it's very closed off, so it's not what you think it is. It's actually better to look on it and more, better, more transparent, to tell you the truth than online. They're all stuffed in there with these big machines, and you can't tell what they're doing.
I couldn't stand there and watch that happen personally.
They don't do it in here because it's a meeting.
Yes.
I've been through 3 elections and I stood in the room and watched them count every ballot every time. Open them up, once at the community center and once in the conference room here. So it is open for observers. They can
Yes,
go in and watch it.
but it's a very small area.
Right, so you can't have 20 people, but you could have the candidates that are going up for election and a representative or two.
Machines and my experience was it was filled with the machines and the people that were counting. And I don't know how all the records came.
Right, it's there. All that space.
Randy?
That's what I was going to point out. The area is very small. You know, the candidates obviously I think would have a definite interest in viewing the count. But to the extent there will be a crowd like this, they're not all going to have that visibility. So, I mean, ultimately it's the board's decision, but like I said, my recommendation is to do it remotely, save the money, and just do the live count, live stream here in a room with people. Because I know there's some concern about, you know, consistently concerned about people not being able to log into the team's website. So we would have a in-person meeting, but the counting would be virtual.
Any other comments, or do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve Ty's virtual attendance and vote count at the annual meeting.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
Ted seconds it. Any more discussion? Mike?
And we're assured that we'll be able to watch the count on the screen.
It will occur pretty much the same way it happened last November, yes. Unless there's additional improvements, but it won't be worse than that.
Bruce?
I felt that actually last November, I thought it did go well. I thought it was a competent election, but I think with the discourse that remains in our community and the doubt of some of the things going on, that it would be better for only $2,500 to actually have them here. I think it would go a long way.
Any other comments? Robin?
Brent Boyd,
No.
Bruce Bashirs,
No.
Ted Long,
Yes.
Edith Lentz,
Yes.
Michael Yates,
No.
Diane Wiley Bowers, Kim Darnell.
Yes.
Motion is approved. What? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it is approved. 4-3.
We'll go on to the next one, which is approve updated election rules for publication.
So we had a couple of potential candidates not get qualified for the election due to a technicality in the process. Staff recognizes that in order to prevent this from occurring in the future, we should change the language. And I've noted it here in the words. It would say that statement 300 words or less with a photo in the hard copy, and it currently says and. Let's change that to or electronic format, so that either one could be done, and that will be included in the ballot package. And then adding the language and must comply with all requirements as stated on the candidate application form provided by the association. Again, there was some confusion about that. So to the extent the language on the application varies for some reason, that is the overriding concern. So that's the only changes. And we'd like authorization to publish this. So, and it would end up going in the November views because October's already gone to press. And then we would bring it back, assuming the board approves it for publication, we would bring it back for the first meeting in December, which I believe is the 12th or something like that.
Any comments for Randy? Any questions? No? Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the updated election rules for publication.
I second.
Any discussion? Bruce?
Yes, this is very interesting to me that the board is deciding to vote on this topic, because the issue, for those that don't know, is that last year, when you submitted your application, if you submitted it electronically, that was okay. This year, there was a change in one of the forms that required that you submit it electronically and that you have a paper copy go down and be in Carlsbad by the deadline. So with the poor mail and all that, myself and another candidate mailed our applications the day, I mailed the day before, I don't know how much ahead, but we each had problems with the post office. So what this is admitting here, or what we're changing it to, is that today we're in the digital age. Why should you need a paper copy? If you send a digital copy, you can easily hit a print button. So the only reason you could think of maybe to have that rule is to stop people from applying at the last minute. So I'm generally in favor of this, that they get to pick their way, one or the other, however they want to submit it, in hard copy or electronically. I'm just sorry that the board didn't feel the same way 2 weeks ago, when they could have included 2 more candidates in the election and decided to not allow that. So
The Board of Elections are tied, so not to allow that.
Any
right,
other?
they decided that, but then there was a hearing and the board decided that that was the correct, and they didn't want to change that, that there was no special circumstances to allow those candidates.
So there was also a precedent before.
Any other discussion? I have a motion and I have a second. Robin, you want to call the roll?
Ted Long,
Yes.
Bruce Bashirs,
Yes.
Brent Boyd,
Yes.
Diane Wiley Bowers,
Yes.
Michael Yates,
Yes.
Edith Lentz,
Yes.
Kim Darnell.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Thank you.
And just to clarify, this is for any election that occurs after this November. Obviously, the candidate window is closed for that election, but any election that occurs after November of this year, assuming it goes through the approval process, there will be affecting.
Right, so it'd be voted on in December, so it'd be like January if we were.
Right. Any election that occurs essentially that, yeah.
Right. We'll move on to, where am I? I did election rules. We'll move on to authorize the GM to execute Hartman Complex Project contract change orders not to exceed $25,000 each. Grant?
Sound like a tongue twister. Okay, so the board approved the contract, $8.25, we'll just round it, $8.25 million for the construction of the new Hartman complex. And I only have $10,000 of purchase authority. In my prior involvement in other larger projects, I've had contract change order authority of at least $25,000. So that's the request here. The reason for seeking it before we even have a single, even before the ground is broken, is that projects have change orders. There's stuff, we already know one right now because of the increase in the floor elevation that I spoke about a little while ago. I expect it will be greater than 25,000, so it would still need to come to the board, but there are those kinds of things that will occur that, depending on the timing of it, could slow down or delay the project. And we would either have to have a special meeting or would have to wait till the next regularly scheduled board meeting. And as we get into November and December, we know that's only the one time a month. So this is to help facilitate the project. I will commit, and what I wrote in the bar is that, well, I will keep you apprised of any change orders that I approve, even if they're not the maximum amount. I'm not, basically, even if it's $500, I'll keep a log and report it regularly, whatever interval you would like. And right now I'm suggesting at each board meeting, but if you want on a weekly basis, I'll do whatever you need. But this is necessary to have that ability without having to convene a board meeting for any change order over $10,000.
Any discussion? No questions for Amy?
Just trying to see if I want to add rest to be just set to be reported on.
Yeah, it's in the bar. So yeah, no, that's what I said. I will keep you apprised of any approved change orders via verbal report during each meeting. So I could do it like during my staff update at each board meeting. I can give you a hard copy report if you want that. I can include it in my, most of the time, weekly emails I send on Fridays. I know I've been a little bit remiss in that the last few weeks, but that's due to some extenuating circumstances.
Brandon has a question.
So potentially.
Matt. Sorry.
Potentially, you could be writing checks for $25,000 many times a day.
Well, that's theoretically possible, but it's not realistic.
Potentially.
Well, change orders are not, number one, they're not routine. It does happen. There's nothing you can do to prevent it. But there's a law against what they call bid splitting. In other words, I mean, my staff has an ability to write POs up to $500. Well, for them to do a bunch of $400 POs to get around that requirement, otherwise it would require my authority, or for me, the $10,000, if I break it up and so that I could spend $40,000 and do $9,995 4 different times. That's not the way this, I mean, that, again, it's possible. There's ways to work around it, but that's not what this is about. This is about, they come to me and they say, okay, this floor elevation thing, maybe it's $20,000. And if I have this authority, then I can just approve it. If I don't have this authority, I have to wait till the next board meeting and bring it forward and get it approved then. And depending on where it's at and the criticality as far as, does this need to be done right now? Does it shut the whole project down? Potentially, maybe there's a material or a piece of equipment that they need to buy. Well, it's already in the contract, but it's going to cost $15,000 or $20,000 more than what we anticipated. That's a change order of $15,000 or $20,000. And I would need to stop and say, I got to go get permission and do that. So this is to help keep the project moving, reduce the number of delays. I spoke with, email conversation with Rick. I said, is $25,000 enough? Because like I said, I've had greater authority than that on other projects. And he said that should solve 90% of any potential change order. So anything greater than that would require to come back to the board for approval. And I don't anticipate something, but again, Murphy's Law says those kinds of things happen.
Diane?
Okay, well, again, this is basically, we're implementing this because of the big, the Harvard.
Right.
And it's all for some of these judgments. All right, and then we'll.
Yes.
I make a motion to authorize the GM to execute the Harvard project contract change, contract change orders not to exceed 25,000.
Each, again, that's making sure that, like Brent said, the potential I could write 10 of them a day. I don't see that happening, but if it's just 25,000, then once I do 2 for 10 and another for 5, I'm stuck. So
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
And discussion?
Yes.
Mike?
And it is specific to the Hartman project.
absolutely.
Bruce?
The way things have been evolving with the Hardman and the budget over the last month, I would not be inclined to increase it. I would be more inclined to reduce it to 5,000.
I have 10 already.
Ted?
Well, that's why I would reduce it.
Did you have a question, Ted?
No. Michael answered my question.
Michael answered your question. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. And we have actually, I'm gonna say something. I think
There you go.
For reasons that we all know, clarity and other reasons, if we do this 25,000, maybe possibly we add 3 people to make the decision. That way you don't have to get the whole board together. You could do the president or the vice president, the president or the chair, president or the secretary, just somebody else to bounce the idea off of. I'm just throwing that out.
That's the will of the board. We can make that work. It just adds another degree of complexity, but I'm certainly not opposed to that if there's not a majority to support.
Only because there are, there's going to be a new board come November. There will be new people on the board. There are board members who are readily available to attend to that don't work like me. But we do have a motion on the floor and we have a second.
So would you, maybe I should name someone? I should name someone to.
Well, maybe you do the vote now, and if it don't pass, then I'll do an amended motion and do something different.
Okay,
So-
just do that now, okay?
Robin?
Sure. Edith Lentz? Michael Yates?
No.
Diane Wiley Bowers? Ted Long?
Yes.
Bryn Boyd?
No.
Bruce Bashirs?
No.
Kim Darnell?
I gotta do no also. Sorry.
No.
I'm gonna come back with another motion though. Can I
I'm
borrow
sorry,
yours?
what was your,
No.
So it
Okay.
doesn't pass.
it does not pass.
So I'm going to make a motion that we authorize the GM to execute the Hartman Complex, authorize the GM to sign not to exceed more than $25,000 each on the Hartman Complex with a
Officer,
officer.
concurrence.
A what?
Concurrence.
Yes, either the president or the vice president
Or the treasurer.
or the treasurer
secretary.
and the secretary,
Yeah.
either or, with an officer, 2 officers,
2 officers or 1?
2 officers.
Okay.
So that we can bounce,
Two.
so that you
Okay.
guys can bounce things off of each other. Just for,
How would that be determined?
what do you mean?
Who are the 4? Are you gonna go do a checklist?
We
or
can
rotation, or-
we can discuss it now. We can do president and vice. Whoever the president is and the vice president at the time.
I mean, I'd like,
Not finance, the treasurer.
Or the treasurer, the president and the treasurer, whoever is the treasurer will be.
Perhaps they have to be kind of available. I mean, that's.
Randy?
That's my concern. There's been a lack of general availability of the current treasurer. And again, I'm not saying it will continue, and I'm not suggesting there's anything other than it's availability. Sometimes we need to know today. More often than not, it won't be a today thing. More often than not, it will be in the next couple of days. So that's not necessarily a problem most of the time, but what if it is a problem?
Okay, so let's see, how are we gonna do this? So right now, I'm not available. So right now, we could do the president and the secretary, because they both don't work.
Vice president and secretary, I mean?
Vice president and the secretary.
Well, and that's, again, that's the advantage of the officer. I mean, any of the four of you can sign checks, right? I mean, it's kind of the same thing. You're signing a check. You're signing a commitment for an expense.
Officers upon availability?
Right.
Okay,
Officers.
that's my motion. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I second that.
Any more discussion?
That
Rob-
doesn't really change anything, from my opinion.
Okay. Robin, you want to call the roll?
Bruce Bashirs,
No.
Edith Lentz,
Yes.
Ted Long,
Yes.
Michael Yates,
No.
Bryn Boyd,
no,
Diane Wiley Bowers, Kim Darnell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion is approved.
The last bar we have is to provide direction to staff. RE, creation of an HVLA benevolent fund.
So we had our meeting 2 weeks ago, and I believe it was Adrian Hardesty got up and suggested creation of a benevolent fund for members that would have difficulty paying the increased assessment. I think it's a great idea. I would like to have 2 board members serve on an ad hoc committee to help us create the process, first of all, and then we would bring recommendations in executive session to the board as a whole to approve. There would be just kind of brainstorming off the top of my head kind of thing. There'd be an effort to do some fundraising, so it wouldn't necessarily be only Hidden Valley funds. We would do, and it would be a very stringent qualification. And it's going to be people that really truly can't afford it, not people that don't want to afford it. And I think there has to be a vetting process, and the ad hoc committee would help us identify those parameters. So that's the request, is to provide some direction and do that.
Mike?
Just guidance like they haven't paid their assessments for 2 years, they wouldn't qualify for that.
Right, something, there would be some requirement that they be otherwise in good standing, or for a majority of the last 5 years or something like that.
Bryn?
yeah, I have a question. Where do I sign up for this?
Right.
Do you know the list of people that are gonna sign up for this?
That's
You know
why I
what-
said, that's why I suggested there would be a vetting process. It's not somebody that just signs up and says, I can't afford it. And they really can. They're doing their mani-pedis on a regular basis. They're playing golf every day, or they're drinking $50 worth of alcohol at the bar 3 times a week.
And that is delving in some dangerous territory, because now you're making judgments on people, the way people live their lives.
It's not about living their life, it's about need.
I think that whole eligibility thing, I think you're really getting into a swamp there, playing favorites and all kinds of things. You would have to have very clear criteria. And it'd be basically if you apply and you self-attest that you're under a certain income or something, I would think. But I think you're going to get a lot more applicants than you think. And I also understand that the association, we really can't use association money for this, so it'd have to be all private donations.
Right.
So, you know, I could see maybe raising $20,000, $10,000, but you're talking if you really open this up, you'd be looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Potentially.
So I think if the board was really serious about helping the people that are having financial problems, they would work on the budget a little harder and try to lower the increases a little bit more. That's how I think you could help the members.
Amen.
Do I have a motion? No, do I need a motion? What are we doing? Direction?
I didn't
Yeah,
get one.
I need a motion.
Why don't we talk about it again?
Well, let's see if we get a motion in a second.
I mean, I think it's, you know, if you want an opinion,
I-
it's really good in theory. I see what someone's trying to do, but we are a whole city, you know.
Again, I'm not invested in this. I heard what I thought was a good suggestion.
The spirit is great.
Yeah, the spirit is wonderful, but I think that it would be a whole can of worms.
The exposure for liability is crazy. I just, right for problem.
If we were like a condo or, you know, something smaller, but this is just huge. We just, yeah, I just don't know how we do. it.
Again, I heard a good idea. I talked to a few people. They thought it was a good idea. So here we are. That's why I'm asking for direction. If the board's not supportive or thinks there's another way to get there, as Ross Perot says, I'm all ears.
Well, there's another saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Right, absolutely.
I will kind of research this, who's had a benevolent, you know what I mean? I will kind of look and see how that works or something.
Right.
I doubt if it would, but I'll just see if, you know, I'll just look up some stuff. How about that?
Okay, works.
So the
Bring
bar
it back.
dies?
So there's basically is most
Okay.
dies for lack of emotion.
All right, let's move on to member comments. Do we have any other?
So I know I have at least one. Let me check again. Doug Berman wrote, according to my thing, exactly at 6:30, right when I was having difficulty getting information off the phone. He says, please read this in its entirety during the first member comment period as it says added, but as it addresses items in new business. Is this loud enough? Item 7E and B on tonight's agenda. He's concerned about 7E, the authorization to execute the Hartman Complex project contract change orders not to exceed $25,000 each. He says, this is an astonishing overreach by the GM at $25,000 each. It is an even greater overreach that there is no total dollar limit proposed as to how many such 25,000 changes the GM could then authorize. Accordingly, the total dollar amount of this bar request for the GM contract change authority cannot even be calculated as the bar is written. Allowing uncalculated dollar authority to the GM would be an abdication of the board's oversight responsibility and fiduciary responsibility. I think that was addressed when you required a couple of board members to participate in the decision. I would like to call to the board's attention to the section of the bar titled Estimated Financial Impact and Funding Source. Inexplicably, the GM has written none as the estimated financial impact and funding source. Should we therefore conclude there will be no financial impact resulting from these unknown expenditures, unknown number of $25,000 expenditures? Will we be using imaginary money from imaginary accounts to pay for this? This reveals a very concerning lack of attention to detail by the GM, something that will be absolutely essential to the successful management of a $10.5 million project. Item 7B, provide direction to staff about the mitigated negative deck. The board blundered badly the first time around when it first had a chance to voice opposition to this project on behalf of the 3,300 members and of the 6,000 residents of Hidden Valley. The board chose to make no response at all. You're now getting a second chance to speak up for this community. Don't fail us a second time. Make no mistake about this, having a commercial cannabis operation on the border of HVL will, one, negatively impact our property values, and two, will disproportionately deplete the water supply available to our community. There has been much chest thumping by the board about how the Hartman project will raise property values. If the directors are good to your word about wanting to protect their property values and to raise them, you will write a very assertive letter objecting to the project on the grounds of diminishing our property values and putting our future water supply in jeopardy. For any director claiming to be a protector of our property values, a vote to send an unequivocal letter of objections is obligatory. Doug Berman. And that's the only other letter I have.
All righty, with that,
Is there anybody in the audience?
do you guys, anybody have any comments? Sorry. No? All righty. With that, I'll thank you for coming and I will adjourn the meeting at 7:41. Goodbye, Ted.